Well, we created this social business in 2006. I was born in 1964, so I'm a pretty old guy. And the question of climate and nature, I think, was something that I had already in a number of occasions had opportunities to come up with and to face. The first thing is probably just to say that being born in the French Alps, nature has been part of myself, and I can say has probably provided me my first real spiritual experiences. And to a certain degree, I think I had always had some part in myself that was bonded with the protection of this incredible universe. But I parked it somewhere. And as you said, here in HEC, there was no particular topic about this, and not many people were talking about this. I found myself 20 years later, in 1994, being the managing director of a company supplying equipment for construction, negotiating a contract with the Chinese government in Shenzhen to supply huge equipment for the Three Gorges Dam. And at that point in time, we won. We won a contract to build absolutely giant equipment that would put concrete into the dam for 7 years in a row and would basically create a hydropower facility that would supply 10% of the total Chinese need. And I was quite happy because our US competitors couldn't really compete. And the reason was because Exim Bank, which is the bank that facilitates exports for US constructors, had been advised that this project was having big environmental concerns. And I think that probably there was some, and of course there was some political bias behind all of this, but that was the first time where I realized that one, what I was going to do was criticized openly by activists, and second, because other people were under the constraints of these activists, I was going to win a huge contract, and we won. And I flew back to Europe with a sort of mixed feeling. And I started to really think about the fact that we as business people, we as humans, probably had an impact on climate. A number of years later, I started to discuss, including with Bénédicte here, Fabre d'Avignon, and she sent me an email, I think that was at the time, saying, we just had an incredible guy visiting us in this kind of conference. The name of the guy was Ray Anderson. He was the founder of Interface in the US. And Bénédicte sent me the text of the speech, and she was saying, just read this. I mean, it's eye-opening. And I did. And that guy had transformed a business which was basically using a lot of oil to do exactly this, these tiles and moquette in France, we say, into a net positive carbon company, revolutionizing his company in like less than 10 years. And suddenly I realized that it was possible, and that looking at climate was a huge source of innovation and reinvention of companies. So that's how I myself got involved with that within Danone. And then speaking to other people, I realized that it also was a huge source of motivation. As Bruno just said, people just wanting not only to be doing good business, but also changing the world or understanding that they were doing something right for their environment, their nature, and so that's how, at the end of the day, if I just make a long story short, it led 1.5 thousand managers of Danone over the last 5 years to reduce our carbon intensity by 40%. And as Bruno said, it was not my decision, it was really a wide sweeping movement of people enthusiastically looking at redesigning our business processes to achieve this. So it's been a long consciousness, awareness, where I received a lot from other people and I shared that.
We heard a little bit earlier that food is somewhere between 30 or 40% of the world emissions, the whole food chain, of course. And your group has reduced their emissions by more than 40% from 2008 to 2014, which is remarkable. But most emissions related to your business, dairy business and water business, are indirect because it's farming, it's glass, it's logistics. So it's much more difficult probably for you to reduce those. Does emissions reduction require different food systems? What are your views and how will you remain a winner in the future food system of the world?
That's a pretty easy question. To just use what Bertrand said about how climate is basically linked to water and overall, it's clear that it's linked to the food cycle, which I would rather call cycle than chain. You can't be a company that has a mission around food without looking at all these aspects of climate, whether they are water, we use probably, or the processes through which agricultural transformation we are engaged probably use 250 billion liters of water every year. A lot of plastic. It's absolutely fundamental that we think about the agricultural model that will support our development. 90% of the several 100,000 of farmers that we are working with have less than 10 cows. So yes, we do have relationship with some mega farms in the US, in a couple of countries, but if I look at the human reality, this is people that we were mentioning earlier, people that have nowhere to hide, other than by raising their standard of living, their productivity, their coming from 1.5 liters to gradually 3 and maybe one day 5 liters a cow, which is very far from the 50 that you can get in some countries. So this is absolutely at the core of what we have to do. We have used the 2 degrees scenario to design the future of our climate policy, which is completely embedded in the organization. It's not like there is CSR, because it embeds the way we work with the farmers, the way we purchase our milk, our water, the way we process it, the way we talk to our consumers, the way we deal with the big retailers and the cold chain when there is a cold chain, and this when we export it, etc., etc. This is totally operational and management, nothing to do with CSR or charity. And when we have that, we've used the 2 degrees scenario to create a scenario where both in terms of peak of emissions, zero net emissions, which includes some insetting, obviously, we will be, I think, not only at least, but probably significantly in advance of the overall COP21 objectives, which will also embark some additional zero net, which will be on water, the way we use and we we give access to water through our systems. Plastics, the same way, where we will recycle plastic or use non-fossil plastic more than we actually use fossil virgin plastic. We will probably, we're thinking about putting in place a tax inside the company for water and probably actually for plastic too, and for CO2. And all of this, I think, is where probably there is, for me, the most critical aspect of all of this is to align the organization, the governance, and the incentives with this strategy. One of the reasons we were successful to reduce our carbon intensity by 40% recently is because overnight, in 2008, we decided that 1/3 of the total bonus of the top 1,500 managers at Danone around the world would be about social and environmental aspects. 1/3, not 5%, not 10, 1/3. And I think this is not because people want to make money. This is simply because they want to listen to a leadership team that basically puts its money where its mouth is. It's a matter of consistency. And we will continue to work on this consistency because I really believe that it's a fundamental way how the leadership team can embark everyone, authorize everyone, and make sure that everyone in the company understand that this innovation that we are talking about, we really mean it. We really mean it in terms of business goals. And so that's, I think the consistency of it is essential. It's never win. It's, I mean, we've never, we'll have the feeling of being, or having achieved this, but walking this path of strategy, organization, governance, and incentive, I think is critical to the success.
Thank you very much. Very impressive, and good luck on this ambitious path.
Actually, indeed, the journey for Danone of responsible business started many years ago. We have the privilege and trying to get this heritage alive with many of my colleagues, 100,000 of them. I can say that Danone is now fully embarked, and has been for a long time, in a vision of business that's much broader than what stops at the gate of our factories. We probably have more than 100 social innovation projects all around the world that are truly embedded on our country business units. They're not outside, they're not in a foundation, they're not run by charities for us. They're really embedded in our business. We have also made sure that all our 15,000 team leaders in the company have an important part of their bonus, yearly bonus, which is related to their social achievement through their business, in order to make sure that this is not only something which is either bottom or top, but really threads on the total company. The lesson that I think we can have from these experiences is that basically three things. One, we are really building a more sustainable business. That doesn't come with just pluses when you're a manager, because the flip side of that is that as we're building a lot of social capital by weaving links with our ecosystem, it means also we can't change and slash the strategy from one minute to the other. Otherwise, we will just destroy that social capital. So I cannot promise to anyone that tomorrow I can fire 1,000 people, or I can change the collection of milk in France or in Kenya, by the way, where we collect milk from 150,000 farmers overnight because someone has decided that it would be much more profitable to do it in a different manner. So that creates bonds. That means that we have to work with time when we do this. The second learning is that it's incredibly innovative. We have learned a lot. From leveraging this social capital, we've embarked the knowledge, the wisdom, the practices, the traditions of so many other people that are around the company. And I wouldn't do that if we hadn't had this approach of actually co-building, co-designing some of these solutions with them. And so, in a way, this is really restoring from inside a reverse engineered innovation process that allows us to look at our business from a social side, from a society standpoint, that's profoundly profitable in terms of the vision that it brings to us and opening new areas. And lastly, and probably not surprisingly to you, and in particular when I see these graphs that we've just seen, this is an incredible way of engaging our people. one reason why people are joining Danone is because they lead a professional life that they can be proud of in their private life. And that is a very important function for many of the generations to come on the job market. So don't expect me to tell you much more about how good and great we are. I won't comment on that, but I'd like to, before we start these high-level panels, I'd like to take you through a very short story, but that story has changed my perspective on many things. It was about 10 years ago. I was with our friend Mohammed Yunus, the founder of Grameen Bank and Microcredit in Bangladesh. We were starting our social business. Social business is very interesting because it's a business with the governance of that business is that we don't take dividends. Shareholders don't take dividends. So in a way, as a shareholder, you have to think hard about why do you do that, basically. And as a company, we decided that we wouldn't call that a profit. We would call that an economic surplus. And that economic surplus can't go to any shareholder. So you have to think hard about what do I do with it? My God, for the first time, I have to ask myself the question of what do I do with my profit? And then you have to think yourself about this is a very small, tiny factory in rural Bangladesh that produces with fully local milk and local ingredients the most powerful yogurt that we have on earth, enriched with micronutrients to serve the health of rural kids and to employ local people and to empower women as entrepreneurs to distribute and sell these products into the villages. So we have many options with our economic surplus the day it comes. Shall we lower the price to make it even more affordable and impact more kids? Shall we improve the nutritional impact so that the kids that are eating it are going to benefit even stronger from it? Shall we improve the price at which we buy the milk? Because we're also here to ensure that the very poor farmers we're working with are going to get a better living out of doing business with us. Or shall we improve the margin for the ladies so that they can turn, instead of turning 60 cents a day out of it, they would turn $1 a day, which would double their income for their family. And so we are in the field here. I'm with Mohammed Yunus, a small Danone team, and we go for a question and answer session in one of these villages. It's very hot, there's just a roof, and there are probably 50 ladies here, all in incredible colors of saris, listening carefully to what Professor Mohammed Yunus has to say. He's talking in Bangla and explaining the purpose of the project, here, why we're here, doing good, helping you guys and the communities and health and everything. And I feel good about this, although someone is translating to me. And then we call for questions, because the idea is to co-build with these women. And the first woman who stands from the back stands up and she says, "Good morning, I'm Yamina. I live in this village. I hear all the good things about this very powerful yogurt you're bringing to us. Today, I do my yogurt myself. So I buy the milk from my neighbor. And as I don't have money, the way I pay her is that I take care of her kids while she's away working in the fields. So if now I buy your yogurt, how is she going to do with her kids?" If anyone in the panel has an answer to that, I've been looking for it for 10 years. I can tell you this question has been the hardest question I've ever been asked in my life as a business guy. It's a question that changed my life. Because for Yamina, it was obvious that economy was about what our Greek ancient people thought, oikos nomia, the way we manage together the home that we share. How do we take good care of that home? How do we put in order, in right order, this home that we share, our village, our country, the planet, our supermarket? She wasn't a different person when she buys in the shop, when she cooked at home, and when she does business. She wasn't a good father at night and a horrible business night during the day. She was one person. She probably didn't have read Adam Smith, but she didn't rely on invisible hand to go for her personal dealings, hoping that probably the market would take care of the kids of her neighbor.